previews for Assassin's Creed Shadows are finally here, and my god, there is a lot to dive into. We're going to talk about gameplay, stats, armors, robes, switching between Yasuke and Naoe on the fly, Shinobi Recruits, and of course, the Animus Hub. We finally know how it's going to play out. So if you're new to me, the Exile, and want to stay up to date with everything Assassin's Creed Shadows, then feel free to press the subscribe button. And before we get into this, a word from today's sponsor. This video is sponsored by GSJJ.com. GSJJ Neon Signs sent me the perfect neon sign for my YouTube and gaming setup in the mail. My channel's logo. Look at that. Oh, beautiful. You can browse their website for a choice of tons of styles. Or do what I did and order your own custom neon sign. Neon signs come with a power cable that plugs into a separate connector, a remote to control the lighting, and a stand or wall hangings depending on your choice of sign. GSJJ Neon Signs offers up to 50% on discounts. Over 10 types of personalized neon lights, such as engraved neon signs and printed neon signs. GSJJ also offers 22 colors of LED neon tubes for your sign. It's easy installation, UL listed, and if that wasn't enough already, they offer worldwide delivery. For the price, quality, and great customization, GSJJ.com is the best place to order your neon sign today. Tap or click my link in the description and head over to GSJJ.com for great discounts on great neon signs. Thank you GSJJ Neon Signs for sponsoring this video. Okay, the first thing that was on everybody's mind, I think, was how are we going to play between Yasuke and Naoe within the open world of Assassin's Creed Shadows? Can you roam as two characters together and switch on the fly? Or do you have to go back to a base? You know, is it going to be a lot more like Assassin's Creed Syndicate? Well, I mean, it's kind of the same as it was in Syndicate. You press the pause menu, you have an icon to switch to Naoe or switch to Yasuke depending on who you're playing as. In a 2025 game, you would probably expect to see something a little more intuitive, a little more natural feeling, I suppose. The Hidden One pointed out in his video that a lot of people wondered if it would be like GTA 5, where the camera sort of drone pans out, skirts over the map, pans into another character. Now, that was a 2013 game. That was over 10 years ago. So yeah, I wouldn't have been hoping for anything less, really. But it is what it is. It's good that you can switch between characters when your heart's desire. Now, something really interesting is that when you're playing in a quest, you can switch between characters. So it's not like you'll get locked out and have to play as Naoe or have to play as Yasuke when you've started said side quest or main quest. You could take out an enemy, go up, hide in a building, switch to Yasuke from Naoe or vice versa, and then carry on that mission. Now, we don't know whether there will be very story-centric missions where you can't do that. Maybe parts of the main quest are very specific on which character is involved in that quest, so time will tell for that. We don't know. Now, one thing I do want to point out off the top of the video, kind of, is that although I did not get a preview for Assassin's Creed Shadows, I know it is what it is, we move. I do have a lot of friends within the Assassin's Creed community, such as the Hidden One, such as Ironside George, people I know and speak to personally who have previewed the game, so I do have an extra level of insight into what we see. On top of that, if you guys didn't know who I was already, I've been playing the Assassin's Creed series from 2007 when I was a wee little lad. Basically, I know everything to do with Assassin's Creed, from the beginning to the most recent stuff to miniature gameplay mechanics to the deepest of secrets. I know it all, so that's my credibility that I'm going to put to you guys. That's my little resume. Anyway, moving on. Now, something I saw that I was really pleased to see was the return of the loading screen, you know, the Animus style loading screen. It's commonplace in pretty much every Assassin's Creed game bar Unity and Odyssey, where when the game is loading, you'll have a little Animus corridor to just run around in, hit the air, and then the game loads. It's a small feature that to many people outside of the AC series wouldn't think much of, but when you've played from the first game, it's very much deep-rooted in the lore of the series. You know, it makes sense because you are loading up your ancestor simulation, or nowadays it's just a historical figure simulation. And a lot of people are saying it looks kind of generic and it's not the best, but I kind of like it. It's very much Animus themed when you look at the footsteps on the floor, and to be able to ground something within the Animus does a lot for me personally. A lot of Assassin's Creed games through the years have strayed away from being Animus themed, so to have this as the Animus, to have this as glitchy digital recreations of Japanese trees to go with the theming of the game, I like it. I think it's a nice little addition Moving on. Now, the weather systems in Assassin's Creed Shadows have been completely revamped and upgraded from anything we've seen in Assassin's Creed before. Rain and thunder is very much more bombastic as it has been in the older games. It feels more real, it feels more alive. And of course, with the addition of seasons within Assassin's Creed Shadows, you're gonna have times where you're gonna see like mildew on the leaves, as well as icicles hanging from buildings. And again, they've added this new technology that actually really works for weather patterns, I think. Now, this obviously works really well for immersion. Whether this stuff's going to work really hand in hand with gameplay or not, I would say personally, you know, time will tell. Something I really do not like is the fact that they've added changing seasons at the drop of a hat. On a whim, at least in these previews, you can change season from the main menu. When you do this, there'll be a nice little time-lapse transition. The seasons will then have changed. If this isn't just a way for previewers to be able to show their viewers how the weather patterns work and seasons can look different, if this is in the full game, I think it completely takes the weight away from how seasons could have impact on the story, the characters, the gameplay. I think if it works very much more like Assassin's Creed 3, when different sequences, different parts of the story would call for different seasons, and you'd have snow and that would affect the gameplay, or you'd have heat and that could potentially for Shadows affect the gameplay, we'll have to see. I think if they went that route, it would work a lot better. However, we haven't really seen the scouting system in these previews, so there is a chance that when we understand more about the scouting systems, which will be when you can send out your shinobi assassin allies to do stuff for you, and that is very much centered around seasonal changes. Maybe when we know more about that, we will understand that, oh yeah, it makes more sense that we can change it when we'd like to. But again, we'll see. Moving on. Now, I'm not going to talk too much about specific gameplay such as parkour, combat, again, because I didn't play it myself, so I don't really have an extra bit of knowledge on the way the game plays other than what I've seen along with you guys. So I thought I'd leave that to the guys that actually played the game to talk about their thoughts on how it plays, and I'll just stick to like the stats, the systems, and stuff that I can see, that I can give my opinion on and explain to you. So, weapons have 4 different stats. A section based on posture, of course, damage, ability gain, and ability damage. So I'm assuming with posture, very much like in Ghost of Tsushima, you can change your posture and it will have different attack animations, and you'll be able to use different types of parrying, types of dodging based on your posture. Different types of enemies require different types of posture. I assume it'll be very the same in Assassin's Creed Shadows as Ghost of Tsushima. Now, when it comes to ability gain and ability damage, probably reads as it is on the tin. If you use the Tanto, for example, you might do X amount of damage, but also do X amount of ability damage, where when you use an ability with that weapon, again, it will use more damage or less damage as if you were to use another weapon with the same ability. And when it comes to ability gain, I suppose it's going to be like the more enemies you fight with that weapon, how fast or slow will you gain sort of your ability recharge. Now, when it comes to armor or robes, depending on Naoe or Yasuke, these have been much more streamlined than what we saw in Odyssey and Valhalla. I'd say they're more akin to what we saw in Origins and kind of Mirage. So, of course, the Mirage trinkets have returned. This time they will have more stats involved with them, and they will probably look different. You've also got the armor/robe slot. Again, if you're Naoe, you're going to equip some assassin robes. If you're Yasuke, you're going to equip some armor. There are 2 weapon slots and a hood/helmet slot depending on Yasuke or Naoe. You can also change your horse through this same menu. Well, I say horse, there's probably going to be like flaming demon mounts and stuff like that as well. It is more streamlined than some of the games we've got, but in my opinion, I think that's better. It's not going to get convoluted. I remember in Odyssey and Valhalla, there was such a focus on you need this greaves, you need these armor, you need this helmet, and in a lot of ways it could sometimes make you quite OP if you did find good robes, good armors. I think streamlining it more is going to avoid like confusion and sort of a feeling of brain fog when you're trying to equip stuff and you're like, wait, which stats have this, which has this. Again, it's more streamlined. Now, a big feature returning to Assassin's Creed Shadows, which we saw in Origins, Odyssey, and Valhalla, is the skill point system. It's a little bit different now though. Now, these are called knowledge points. Knowledge points unlock different skills for your character. You'll unlock knowledge points by doing activities in the world. That might be the main story, that might be side quests, that might be bandit camps you find through the worlds. You'll get knowledge points. Again, as you gain knowledge points, you can unlock more skills with said knowledge points. Signature weapons such as the Tanto or the Katana have mastery skill sections. You can also use your mastery points to unlock these. Signature weapons such as the Tanto, the Katana, probably the Hidden Blade, will have its own skill tree that you can use these mastery points to unlock, to increase the damage or different abilities within these weapons. And they also unlock different things for gameplay style. One skill tree is Assassin, another is Shinobi, and the other is Tools. We saw 2 Shinobi Recruits in the Assassin's Creed Shadows gameplay preview, and it's not too in-depth. I'm sure we'll unlock a lot of different Assassin Recruits through the game. Sorry, Shinobi Recruits. Now, these recruits have their own gameplay style. They also have their own story. Think in terms of Assassin's Creed 3, you'd have your Assassin Recruits that would have a very small sort of storyline. It was a little bit more fleshed out than what we had in like Brotherhood Revelations. Again, each individual had their own name, they had their own purpose. But I'm thinking, or at least I'm hoping, in Assassin's Creed Shadows, it's going to have much more of a focus on these characters as characters within the story. Will they be intrinsic to the main story? I don't know, because I'm assuming it's up to you whether you want to go out and find them. So I'm thinking it's probably going to be more side content, especially seeing we know that choices in Assassin's Creed Shadows aren't really going to be meaningful. You'd think they'd be mandatory to find otherwise. We'll see. The Shinobi Recruits we saw in the gameplay preview, one was called Yaya, and the other one was called Yagaro. Now, in the Hidden Ones gameplay, I thought it was quite funny. We see Yaya facing off with a bad guy, and bro, this enemy is literally like a giant. Like, this would be a literal new race of human beings. Like, I don't know what Ubisoft's problem is with making enemies just huge. It's crazy. But regardless, we got a showcase of, you know, how these recruits will fight enemies. Now, these recruits are invulnerable. They cannot be killed because, again, they have their own storyline. I think it would probably be more interesting and add a level of tension to recruiting these Shinobi Recruits to your battles if they were killable, because then you would be more focused on, okay, which Shinobi Recruit should I have for this fight? I don't want to use that one because I need them. I don't want to lose them, but this guy, I could use that guy. They've got a good skill set there. They're more likely to succeed. You know what I mean? I feel like if they were not invulnerable, then there would be more of a level of depth to that gameplay system. We move. And finally, oh, this is a big one, and I've been asking about this for a long time now. The Animus Hub. Yes, the Animus Hub. We still don't know too much, but we've seen what it looks like. We've seen how it works, and we do know it will be dropping when Shadows drops. So when we boot up Shadows, we will be booted into the Animus Hub, and then subsequent games from there on out will be booted through the Animus Hub. Now, I think there will probably also be updates for Origins, Odyssey, and Valhalla, because and Mirage as well, because we've seen physical proof with this footage that these games will also be accessible through the Animus Hub. It will probably just be a little title update. You update the game, when you boot the game, the Animus Hub boots instead. It is extra steps, I won't lie. It is extra steps that I don't really care for. However, the UI of the Animus Hub looks it looks very beautiful. It's focused on being in the Animus, not as much as I'd like, but again, I can't fault them too much because I've said, brand things around being in the Animus, brand things around being in the Animus, play into your lore, play into that mystery, and they are kind of doing it. Yes, it's not part of the story, it's more part of a live service to make money, but you know, regardless, I do like the look of it, at least I can say that. There are 3 tabs within the Animus Hub: Memories, Projects, and the Vault. Now, the Memories tab is where you'll choose what Assassin's Creed game you want to play. You can choose from Origins, Odyssey, Valhalla, Mirage, and Shadows, and in the future, Hexe, stuff like that. Now, it's in a really neat design. You know, you've got your timeline through the years as you select it, and when you select a certain game or pan over a certain game, you'll get this 3D render of each main character of the game. I really like that. That's the sort of shit I imagined as a kid when I thought about like future Assassin's Creed and how it could all be like big thing. And that inner child in me is like screaming like, that is fucking sick. But the more rational adult in me is again saying, well, I can't be bothered to flick through a load of menus to choose my game when I could just easily choose it from my PS5's home screen. So, you know, there is a section within the pause menu called Projects. These give you access to a currency of sorts called anomalies, which you can also unlock by doing activities in the world. This section gives you rewards like armor, robes, trinkets, helmets, that sort of thing. It's kind of like Redder's shop, but again within an actual pause menu that you can presumably access whenever you need. And I wouldn't be surprised if these anomalies, this sort of in-game currency, will also post-launch after the game comes out, be available to be buying via microtransactions, that sort of thing. You know, Ubisoft want to make extra money somehow. I wouldn't be surprised if this is a way for them to do that, a little bit of a ploy, but it is what it is. Well, I mean, I think microtransactions are bad, but I mean, it is what it is in terms of this video, because I'm not going to go on about it. Okay, so the third tab in the Animus Hub is called the Vault. The Vault is supposedly the modern day aspect of Assassin's Creed going ahead. You know, not just part of Shadows, but part of the series as a whole. Now, I've got a lot of problems with this, which I might save for another video because it's a lot. But first, let me just explain what it is. From the footage we've seen from the previews, we can see there's a lot of locked off sections, but what we do see is like files to read, like very much encrypted data, you know, part of the modern day stuff in Assassin's Creed. And it does add a level of, I guess, lore to the modern day. We're going to get glimpses of where it could go next. But, you know, in my opinion, modern day in Assassin's Creed is a very narrative-centric thing. If it's not part of your main narrative in any of your Assassin's Creed games, then I don't think there's a point in the modern day. I love the modern day in Assassin's Creed, don't get me wrong, but I love it when there's meaning to it, there's depth to it, there's a parallel between the ancestor and the descendant and how their stories tie together and how they share emotion over thousands of years. You know, that is what I love. And if we're not getting that, then we'll see. Well, we'll just have to see how it's played out. But so far, it seems like it's just going to be like emails to read between Abstergo employees, like AC1-esque stuff. Again, in AC1, that had more meaning, but I could go on. Maybe that's for another video. Apparently, the Vault and the Animus Hub as a whole will evolve over time, so they might even change the way it looks based on what Assassin's Creed game you play. Maybe when Hexe comes out, it will be more themed around that game. I don't know. Time will tell. Now, one thing I do want to point out, when I mentioned that Origins, Odyssey, Mirage, Valhalla, and Shadows are all part of this Animus Hub in the timeline, just to point out, Ubisoft have not added the ability to play the older games through this Animus Hub, which is not a technological limit to the older games because it's literally just a launcher. I think what it is more is that Ubisoft as a company just do want to move away from the older games. They kind of see Origins onwards as like a soft reboot, the rebranding of the series in this new format, new formula. Part of me thinks they are very much aware of the quality of the older games and how there is so much of a love for that. I also do think that they're trying to get rid of that divide in the AC community, and the best way for them to do that is to kind of just drop off the old fans. Look, you know, we know most of the older fans have moved past it, so let's just focus on this new RPG format and the audience that comes with it, and let's give that into the Animus Hub, which as a business move, I get it, but as a lover of all things Assassin's Creed from 2007 to 2025, I would love to see all of my AC games in the hub. We move. However, it could also be a limitation of like backwards compatibility between different consoles. You can't just put the PS3 copy of AC1 into your PS5 and play it. You should be able to, but you can't. So it could be due to the limitations of that as well, which I understand, to be honest, but I hope at least if we get Animus Hub on PC, which we will, hopefully maybe you can play all of the games through PC in the hub. Moving on. Oh wait, no, that's it. That's all I've got to say today. Well, I have more to say, but that's all I've got to cover. Again, if Ubisoft did give me a preview, I would probably have a lot more to say because I would have played the game myself. I would have really sort of went in depth on how the parkour works. I would have really tried to break the game and just see, you know, what are the limitations? How does it work? How does it feel to explore? I can't really speak on that yet, and that's why I didn't really want to cover gameplay too much in this video. But a lot of people are saying the combat feels good and the parkour, it's getting there, but it's not where it used to be, which is kind of how I saw it anyway. But yeah, that is everything we saw in Assassin's Creed Shadows, the previews. And I will point out, I'm not really being salty that I didn't get to play, you know, AC Shadows early. That comes from a place of privilege, you know, with my channel where it's at to be able to even consider doing something like a preview anyway. So, you know, you can't complain about that stuff. It is what it is. I'm just happy to be here today in this position talking to you guys, and I'm really excited to know what you guys have to say about this. Do you like what you see? Is there anything that you're more scrupulous about? Let me know in the comments. We'll get a conversation going and build that AC community. You can like this video if you enjoyed it to help the algorithm push this video in the right places. You can subscribe if you want to stay up to date with everything Assassin's Creed Shadows and beyond. Yes, I am finally in the new setup. I'm in the new apartment. Things have moved around. My Wi-Fi isn't here until tomorrow, so we are struggling a little bit, but it looks good, right? We got the new neon sign. Shout out again to my sponsor. I got these nice little like lights. I don't know if they do much. I don't even know if they're in the shop, but you know, they're something in there. And yeah. All right, guys, I love you. May the Father of Understanding guide us. I will see you soon. Goodbye.